everyone. I hope you enjoy this part of a conversation I had with the inimitable Garnet Rogers. He took time out of his day to sit down and have a chat with me over Zoom. I wish the quality of the video and audio were a bit better, but you know, there's only so much you can do with the technology, I suppose. So I hope you enjoy it. Leave a comment, thumbs up, and don't forget to visit his website, which is www.garnetrogers.com. You can check out, it says buy CDs. Go in there, you can look at all of his CDs that he has, and it's nice. You can check it out, and as he explains, you can buy a single song, but it's nice to buy the full CD because it's a cohesive unit. And I suggest, some people are, oh, CDs are for old people. No, they're not. They're for all ages. And it's very nice. As I said, I just happened to bring this one up. Yes, I own all of the CDs. It's nice because you get the artwork. And I like that you get the lyrics. As I said, his lyrics are wonderful. It's not just the music, but you get the lyrics. And I like that you can read what, I was going to say program notes. That's not what I mean. The liner notes. Well, I guess it's still a liner. But anyway, enough of me. Let us go on to a conversation with Garnet Rogers. Okay. And this is the inimitable Garnet Rogers. And it's always difficult.
I'm the sad, dried out exoskeleton of what used to be a folk singer.
Oh, don't say that. You're not that far ahead of me, and I don't think of myself as dried out quite yet. So,
yeah, it's the miles more than the years.
Well, how many miles do you think you've done? 3 million? 5 million?
I'd say probably close to 4 million.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And I before we get
much all my album for the most part, and always by car. So it's it wore me down.
I hate driving, so more power to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I wanted to mostly have a conversation. I hate the word interview. I have conversations. And what made me think of talking to you is I found a card. It's really funny. So the first time I actually interviewed someone, a musician, actually, funny enough, hailed from Canada. I found a business card I had. That was in 1986. That's very scary. I read what you wrote about the streaming situation. And I found a very interesting chart. And obviously you're in the business. I am not in the business. I am in the purchasing end. And it shows that what happened in the last about 20 years, that it went from the physical music to now it's almost half streaming. So, I mean, you said that you're doing okay. Can you explain to my viewers? I know what you said, but how can you explain to my viewers how you can manage to do okay? And what have you set up for yourself?
Oh, I'm not doing okay.
Well, you're doing a little bit better.
I did okay. I did very well back in the day. Back in 1976, my brother and I went into a partnership with our parents to produce and record and manufacture albums, LPs. And that was a response to the fact that nobody was interested in what we were doing. None of the major labels were interested. There were a couple of independent labels like True North. They weren't interested. So we not having access to, no one was handing us a piece of the pie or offering us a piece of the pie, so we baked our own pie. And we did very well. And I mean, not massive numbers, but we kept the production in our own hands. We kept the means of production in our own hands. And we, my mother being the very canny and hard-assed person that she was she knew right from the get-go that don't allow the boys any access to that money. So, we would have to go and beg her for, Mom, we got to do another record, and she would work out a budget, and we'd have to go in and do the record within that budget, and live within our means. But she and my dad did all the mail order. They did all the financing, the mail order, servicing stores, servicing distributors. And when Stan died in 1983, and I decided I was going to try and make another shot at it, as opposed to doing something else, like I don't know what, but we talked about it, and the first thing you have to do is do a record. So we worked out a budget, and I held on to that budget, and we got a record out, and within, I'd say maybe 2 months, given that I was completely an unknown quantity in the music world, within 2 months we got the money back, and like what it cost us to make the record, which I think was around $10,000 at the time, and that was a fairly big budget in 1984 dollars. And that's the way it went. There was a system of distribution. There was radio play. You could get on the CBC. You could get on college radio. You could send it out to United States college radio, and we did a lot of stage sales. That was the thing that drove it. And 4 million miles of touring, and there were always cassettes and LPs in the back of the car, and then later on CDs. So the way it worked out was you hold to a budget, you produce a record according to that budget, and I was happy with that, because to not have a budget is like playing tennis with the net down. You see what happens to people who have $1 million and they come out with a really crummy record. So usually within 6 weeks to 2 months, what I'd spent on the record would have come back with orders, like, from distributors and stage sales, and I would have made that money back. And after that, these records would continue to sell. And so it was a great little system, and I had a number of offers from the major labels to sign on, and I realized that what my my share of what was coming in was going to go down to about 89 cents per unit. So I never went with any of the labels. We kept on just with what we were doing, and it worked great. And our little record company flourished. And then about it feels like about 10, 12 years ago, I began having these conversations with my parents about, sales were really going down. We were seeing a precipitous drop in sales. And that's when Napster was rearing its head, and we were seeing more evidence of people just downloading stuff for free. And sales and I was touring as much as I ever did. But people were downloading stuff. And so now, I mean, the last record I made was, well, the last solo album I made was 4 years ago. And it was a very small budget, because it was just myself and another musician working on it. And I don't know if it's actually paid for itself yet.
No.
And I released another record, which was a live album with Archie Fisher last year. And mind you, I've stopped touring. and Archie doesn't tour anymore, but I still have most of them in the basement.
Mm.
And I'm only pressed 1,000.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, you know, back in the day when I was touring heavily in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, I could usually count on, even with my very limited audience, in comparison to other artists, I could usually count on selling anywhere between 20 to 50,000 copies of a unit, and that's what we're living on now. That's, you know,
Uh-huh.
my parents and I invested that money. You know, it's in the market, and the market's still hanging together. But that's what's allowing me to have, my wife and I, to have a future is what, you know, and what stopped happening 10 years ago. So, I mean, there's just no, like, this order came in today. That'll be my order probably for the week.
Oh.
So, you know, in terms of mail order, I do offer downloads on my website, and people maybe download stuff. They have to pay $10 or $12 for a download, and I've come around to being okay with people downloading stuff that way, because they're getting I'm controlling they can either download individual songs, or they can download the whole album, which is what I prefer them to do, because the album is an album. It's a collection of songs in a particular order, and the payback for that is fine. You know, I can live with that. But what I see now is people. There's a couple of my albums that have been uploaded onto YouTube, the whole album. And
I've seen
people
that,
will go
yes.
on and they'll comment. And they say, "My God, this is fantastic! I listen to this all the time." Well, thank you. You know, like, but you know, it's and I actually confronted one of the guys. He's from England. His name was Tom Eason, and he downloaded or uploaded my Firefly album.
I saw that one, yeah.
Yeah, and it was getting a ton of play. And I contacted him and I said, "Who gave you permission? When did this become yours to do?" And he replied on his Facebook page, "Well, you know, people really love it, and I want people to, you know, be able to enjoy this." And I said, "But you're killing my sales." And he said, "Well, you know, why don't we take a vote here and just, you know, let the public decide?" Well,
I don't think it works that way.
When did it become their damn decision? You know, you're dealing with this really weird mindset of this is ours, and this entitlement to it's just such a bad business model if you're trying to create something, and people who are creative, they create whether they sell it or not, but the impetus to actually do it kind of disappears or lessens a great deal if you're not getting anything back, even if it's just a handshake and acknowledgement that, you know, what you're doing is important. So anyway,
yeah, I've seen a lot of your stuff on YouTube, and I've heard you comment in concerts about YouTube, and I don't blame you one bit, because I mean, YouTube doesn't pay a lot.
no, it's one of the lowest.
Oh yeah, it is probably maybe the lowest actually, but it has the most views, or the most, what's the word? They actually have a word for it. It's the most traffic.
Yeah.
It has the most traffic, but the least payout.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
well, what
is
I
there?
mean, as I was ranting about this on Facebook, you know, which is kind of what brought us together here today. You know, this interface I had with this young man at one of my shows, and he was wearing this T-shirt. He was standing next to my merch table, and he had this T-shirt that it was a takeoff on the old MasterCard commercial. Concert ticket $30, concert poster or concert T-shirt $20, free download, priceless. And I said, well, what's that supposed to mean? And he says, well, music should be free, dude. and it was just this young kid calling me dude. I snapped. And I dragged him over to the table. I said, what's free about all this stuff? I mean, look at this. I've got $250,000 invested here. And this was like probably 15 years ago. I said, I've got $250,000 worth of investment here. And you think this is all should be free? Well, you should just be sharing it to the world. And I said, well, you can leave. You can either leave or you can cover up your shirt, or go get a sweater or something. But I'm not playing for you. And I'm not going to play for you. I'm not going to have you in the room while I'm playing for other people who have accepted this premise that what we're doing is acknowledging each other's value. I'm giving my best. I'm doing my best for them. They're paying me money. They have a right not to buy it. They can have a right to not buy the concert ticket as well. And that's just the way a market works. And that's what I've always worked with. That's the circumstance I've always worked within. But I was not going to have this kid in the room, and I threw him out. Mm-hmm. He, as the saying goes, he left with his head held high and his feet held low.
Yeah, I mean, having grown up around musicians, having musicians in my family, I think that's why I don't download music, or if I do want it on my phone, I always have the physical copy, and I like the physical copy. You know what I mean? So I don't understand that why wouldn't people, I like holding a CD. I like holding an album. I will never get rid of my stuff. And I'd like to point out to my viewers that your music for me is some of the most intelligent. So why wouldn't somebody want to read the lyrics? I love your lyrics. I mean, not only is the music beautiful, but the lyrics are intelligent. It's just
thank
song. You have a song actually on this album here. If you recall this album.
Yeah, I know that one.
Okay. Maybe I don't know what you think of this song, but it's The Beauty Game. I don't know how a man could write a song like that. I mean, how did you get into my life? My
wife and I were in a Neiman Marcus store outside of Boston one afternoon, and I'm just kind of hanging around, holding her purse awkwardly, the way men do in stores with their wives, and I just watched her try on a hat, and it looked great on her, but she just sort of looked at herself, and you could just see the self-loathing and disgust, and she grabbed the hat and put it back on the rack, and we left the store. And that was the genesis of that song. But it's
she's beautiful.
yeah, no kidding. So anyway, so you pay attention, you write down what you see, and it's observation. It's
You're a good observer because boy, that really, I think that hit home for a lot of women.
Yeah, I don't know why I don't do that. Well, I was gonna say I don't know why I don't do that song anymore, but I don't. I haven't played a show in almost 6 months, so there you go.
So if we can maybe finish up on the streaming, I mean that's a huge topic, as I said. That's just looking through everything and reading comments from all these musicians, what they have to say, especially with this Daniel Elk guy who's making billions and not paying out anything.
Yeah, is this the guy from Spotify? You can't do that. You can't only put out an album every 3 or 4 years. We need.
You got to just.
We need. Come on, get moving.
Yeah, make it, because basically I need to make more money.
So basically you're sitting in this this galley with an oar, and there's some guy up there with a whip, and
make more money. And
it's a funny business model.
It's horrible. And I was reading that one of the issues with Spotify is not only that they don't pay the artists directly, they pool it, they pay the publishers, they pay everybody else, and it trickles down, and they have their top tier, like everybody's favorite, Taylor Swift. They get the most money. And
she's
then
mine.
and can you please take Justin Bieber back? We don't want him anymore. But in all seriousness, it's just ridiculous, the way they pay. And I was doing a little calculation last night, and it's Apple Music pays the best, but you'd have to get something around 5 million streams on a song to make $36,000.
Yeah.
And Spotify, if you had 5 million streams, if you were lucky, you might make about 21,000. But they have the fewest amount of paid subscribers, so et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's tough. And I had mentioned that you were on iTunes, and you weren't aware of that. So I don't know how that works, since that is a compilation. It's that compilation album. And then I guess 3 compilation albums with you have songs on.
I mean, the compilation album I did with a U.S. company, I didn't have any part of the deal. I handed the negotiation over to a guy who was working for me, who I trusted, and he just, the deal he made, which I was disgusted with, is just a basic boilerplate deal, and it handed over everything to this.
Oh, okay, so it's a one-off.
It was a one-off thing, and I mean, it was an extraordinarily bad deal for me anyway. They got everything: the album art, the photos, the masters, everything. All they had to do was manufacture it. I mean, they paid an artist to do the cover, but they got everything for free. And I thought, well, okay, this is gonna be a good deal for me. They'll start selling it, and this is how a record company works. Even one of the good guys, which is what these guys were supposed to be. The first thing that came in the mail, I thought, oh boy, here comes my check. And I opened it up. It was an invoice for $38,000. And I said, what's this? I called the guy up. I said, what's this? And he said, well, you don't have to actually pay that. You don't have to actually cut us a check, but that's the recoupables. That's what we have to make back before you get anything. And I thought, where recoupables? Like, I didn't charge you for my recoupables. And anyway, so I didn't get anything from them. When the royalties started trickling in from them, I was getting out of every album that sold for, let's call it $15, I was getting 89 cents. So and they were, like I say, they were the good guys. That was the same money. That was the same percentage of the take that someone like Prince was getting from his record company.
Wow.
That was the industry standard. So anyway, they just licensed all my stuff from that compilation album. Well, the album got sold to another company when they went out of business. That stuff got licensed to, just given to Spotify, and they seem to think that they own the publishing. If you look at YouTube and one of those songs is there, it's the wrong publishing, and I can't do anything about it. So even if I was getting paid royalties, it wouldn't be coming to me. So it's just an incredibly, and the other 3 songs that you mentioned, 2 of them I think were with Archie Fisher, and one of mine was Junior,
yes,
which is an album I've never released on, like I've never used let out as a, I didn't give it to anybody, and I don't know how they got a hold of it, and it was kind of, I didn't know about that until you told me. So that's the way it works. It's just piracy. It's all it is.
Right.
And they should all be wearing thigh-high leather boots and carrying knives in their teeth with bandanas. It's just high seas piracy.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't like Spotify. I gave my husband what for last night because he has Spotify for free, and I said that's even the worst kind of Spotify. If you're going to get it,
I know lots of, I know
pay
lots
for
of,
it.
I know lots of people who have it. And there was even one tiny little part of me was thinking, well, geez, the horses left the barn now. Maybe I could get Spotify and I can listen to Van Morrison once in a while or something. But I just couldn't do it. I just could not do it.
No, I could. Mm-mm. And then I found out he actually he was doing Napster years ago, and you broke the law.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I said, yes, you did. Statute of limitations may be up, but you broke the law.
Yeah.
All right, and now another question about money, if you don't mind. It's a lot of musicians are obviously not doing so well because of this coronavirus, and a lot of it in our country where I am, my country where I am, it has to do with the dense population, the density of the population, and the density of the population. People being dense, but a lot of people are doing Patreon, crowdfunding. What is your feeling on that? Do you think that's viable? Do you think that's something that you would ever consider, or do you think?
I've got good friends who do Patreon. My friend Natalia Zuckerman has a Patreon account, and she does a ton of stuff. If you look at her page, you can see her doing all kinds of things on a pretty much a daily, weekly basis. It seems like a lot of work to me. It's also just a function of we have very poor internet here, and so to actually try to go online to say do an online concert, there's going to be an interruption somewhere along the line. I suppose if I was worried more about finances, and 10 years from now maybe I will be, I don't know, but I might be doing something. But most of my younger friends are and people who were signed with other record companies who have to make they're not in the position that we're in here. They're having to scurry around and find stuff. So they're on Facebook every day. They're they have a tip jar, and it just doesn't seem that attractive to me. But it is viable. There's a really wonderful trio from northern Michigan called the Accidentals, and they are just completely ripping it up online. Like, they do a thing every day, and it's kind of they do a little lunch thing for their fans, and people tip, and they get sponsors. They have a local coffee shop that gives them, like, a coffee shop and bookstore in their town that gives them $400 a month as a sponsor. And they basically have the coffee cup there, and they review a book from the thing, and they're doing all this stuff, and then they're in the middle of recording an album, and they used to tour, like, they were touring monsters because they're young. Now that they're not touring, they're finding other means of making a living, and they're doing quite well financially with it. So you can. I just can't seem to bring myself to I'd have to forego one of my naps in the afternoon or something.
Yeah, it takes work. Okay, well, all right. I have one more serious question. I know that you're very concerned about this. Is that rocket launch site in Canso on hold because of this thing, or has it been scrapped, hopefully? Coronavirus, this thing.
I'm sure it's just on hold. If there's a way for the Nova Scotia government to sell a pristine piece of land and have it destroyed utterly and forever, and do it with a foreign company, if there's a way for them to make that happen, they will. they're selling the whole province out piecemeal. And what they're not selling, they're spraying with toxic chemicals to so-called manage the pulp industry, forestry. And we had thought for a while of moving to Nova Scotia, and that's just not on the table anymore. It's just not going to happen because they're selling the province right down the tubes.
That's a real shame. And so let's finish up with a few fun things. Is that okay with you? A few
Sure.
fun questions? Yeah. Doesn't always have to be totally serious. So what were some of your biggest musical influences when you were, honing your chops?
Well, when I was a kid, we listened to everything that was on the radio. It was Motown and the Beatles, and my parents were big folk music fans. So we listened to what they listened to, Odetta and Tom Paxton and Bob. My mother was a big fan of Bob Dylan, and so that's what we listened to. And Gordon Lightfoot. Radio was a lot more interesting back then. It wasn't programmed and compartmentalized the way it is now. So, and that's one of the other things with just as a general problem, most radio in America anyway is controlled by one company. And when you're driving across the states, you'll hear, if you're listening to radio and you're just tuning around, you'll hear Maggie May on one, at least 7 or 8, by Rod Stewart, you'll hear Maggie May 7 or 8 times.
Oh, I won't, because I'll switch the station really fast.
I love that. I love that song. It's got the best opening line of any song that was ever written, as far as I'm concerned. Wake up, Maggie, I think I got something to say to you. That's a perfect, okay, where does the story go now? But anyway.
So sick of that song, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a personal opinion. Anyway.
It was just overplayed in my youth, that's all.
Yeah. Anyway, it's one company that programs this stuff out of Texas. And it leads to real problems. In Minot, North Dakota, some years ago, they had a train wreck. All the trains go through Minot, North Dakota. It's a huge switching area, and all the big oil trains, like tanker trains and chemical trains, everything that goes through the northern part of America goes through Minot, and they get switched around on these tracks. Well, they had a train wreck, and although there were 3 radio stations in town, they couldn't announce to people that they'd had this train wreck because the music is pre-recorded. So like the country station, the oldie station, and the pop station, it's all pre-recorded, and all the DJs are in Texas, and it's just fed into the local airwaves from Texas into Minot. So the police couldn't get any kind of warning out to the local people to evacuate. 12 people died, and the police were reduced to driving around town with loudspeakers saying, "Get out of, get back in your house, close your windows." It resulted in actual deaths, as opposed to just cultural death. But that's just an aside. So radio back in the day was incredible. We had this one station in Toronto called Chum FM, and you could hear Stravinsky, you could hear the Beatles, you could hear Bob Dylan, you could hear Frank Zappa being interviewed. You would hear anything you can possibly imagine within a 24-hour period. And it was you carried the radio around with you all day because you might just hear something that was just insane that you would have to search out. It was exciting as hell, so that informs everything you do, everything you all the choices you make as when you're trying to soak all this stuff up. So at one point you're listening to Vivaldi, and then suddenly Little Richard comes on, and this is your brain is trying to assimilate all that. Anyway, so I listened to everything back when I was a kid. That's the short answer.
Oh, that's what I did. Listen to everything. All right. So let's see. So I know you have many guitars. Any of your guitars have names, or is that a girl thing? Girls name their instruments.
No, it's a man thing too. Men tend to name their private parts for some reason. I don't. Most men have a name for their junk. I don't. I don't name the guitars. I don't name my car. I don't give it a sexual orientation. And the really odd thing is, I belong to a bunch of vintage guitar groups on Facebook, and the guys are always referring to their guitar as she. It's always it's always a she. But these are the same guys who can't recognize. They won't allow somebody to determine their own gender. Like, these are all really sort of anti-transgender people. It's like, you got no problem assigning a gender to your guitar. Why do you have a problem with someone assigning their own gender to themselves? But no, I don't name anything. Okay. I had a boat for a while. I didn't name the boat.
Really? It had no name on it.
It was the boat.
It was just the boat. Okay. So what are you listening to at the moment? Is there anything particular that's on the CD player, or however you listen to, or you just turn on the radio?
I'm listening to a lot of silence right now. I'm trying to do some writing, and most of my afternoons are spent sitting out in the backyard listening, or with a chicken on my lap, and that's about it.
Does the chicken have a name?
Chicken does not have a name.
Okay. Maybe the chicken needs a name.
We have a horse here who's almost 2 years old, and his name is Baby.
Oh, okay. Now, is this the offspring of the horse that was found in the woods that maybe mated with a moose?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we just refer to him as Baby. We haven't. Well, there's sort of a name that we gave him, but we don't use it. It's just like, time to go bring Baby in. So it's just, we're not good with that.
And so this horse actually is okay, because I just at one show you said you found this granddaughter horse.
Well, no, she died the day the day after she gave birth to the baby.
And but the baby's okay.
The baby's okay, but he was an orphan, and we had to hand raise him. Not bottle feed him. He was very smart. He learned how to drink warm milk out of formula out of a bucket almost immediately.
Oh wow!
But we've had to do that a number of times. Bottle feed a baby for 3 or 4 months.
Okay, all right. And so you said writing. Will it be another book? Do you think?
I don't know. I'm poking around with stuff, but there won't be any sequel to the last book. The years that followed the 10 years on the road with my brother were just miserable. I was by myself out on the road, and there was no feeling of comradeship or anything. It was just a guy out on the road by himself, struggling with depression and alcohol and trying to make a living. So I don't think the world needs to hear anything about that. But there's other stuff I'm sort of poking around at. I can't remember who said it, but someone said, I don't need more time, I need a deadline. If somebody had handed me a deadline, I'd probably get busy, but again, that would make me miss one of my afternoon naps.
Okay, all right. And then I have to say, your fans have to be some of the nicest people that I've ever met at shows. How do you feel about most of your the people who show up? Would you say they're basically pretty nice, or
Oh yeah, People are lovely. It's a little community, and I miss the community. You get the odd person who comes in who I had one couple come up to me before a show one night down in Maryland, and they had Trump stickers on their car, and they were wearing MAGA hats, and they said, we don't want to hear you say anything about our president in your show tonight. We don't want to hear any politics. And I said, well, you're not gonna, because I'm not gonna let you in. And they said, well, we got tickets, and I said, I don't give a damn. I'm not playing for you.
Wow.
And I went inside and told the presenter that these people weren't coming in. I went back out and I handed them the $50 back and told them to get lost. But that's very, very rare. But no, it's I do miss that aspect of the performing. It's a nice community, and I don't hide back in the dressing room for the most part. I'm usually out wandering around a little bit and talking to folks, and so I do miss that element of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't miss hotels. I don't miss driving. I don't miss restaurant meals, but I miss being in a nice room and playing for people.
Yeah, and if you could tell anything to people who want to come see you, hope springs eternal, that we will eventually get out of this pandemic. Concerts will happen again. How would you tell people not to record you? Because I witnessed something at a concert where you told someone not to record you, and it was very eye-opening. I mean, it really changed my perspective on things.
If they get really obtrusive about it, then I'll usually stop the show and tell them to stop. They sit there with their camera, and you see the little red light. Or sometimes they've got a flash on you. It's memory work. It's not a TV program. You're not watching, a MASH rerun. It's someone up there actually trying to remember lyrics, and I'm trying to play the songs a bit differently every night. And it's a lot of concentration. If someone's interfering with my concentration, then they're interfering with the show, and I'm still getting paid, but the audience doesn't get what they came for. So I've a couple of times I've tossed people out, if they won't stop, or I just say we're going to take a break now and have the presenter toss them out. But I think people understand now that they're not supposed to be doing it. So.
Okay. Yeah, as I said, I don't record people per se, because it's your livelihood, and I don't want to take away from it. And where am I going to post it anyway? But if I did, I would ask. All right, well, thank you so much. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know you've got a nap to take.
I've got a nap. Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on my little channel here. And I know you mentioned that you were possibly going to start your own channel. So,
yeah, maybe.
It's not too hard. To make it good is hard.
Yeah.
But but I think people will enjoy it. So I look forward.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how bored I get.
It'll be all right. All right. Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you on the road sometime. Whenever this, I don't know how the numbers are in Canada. I have not looked at the news today, but
we're doing better. But the States is off limits.
I don't even want to be here. I have not left my house since March.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to leave my house. I'm not going anywhere. Last thing I went to was your concert, actually.
Yeah.
Yep. So I guess if that's the last thing I went to, then that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was very, you were on fire, I have to say. That was an excellent show.
Well,
I
thanks.
enjoyed it immensely. So stay safe. Oh, well, thank you so much. As I said, take care.
Yeah, you too. Be
And
safe.
yeah, I will. And as I said, hopefully, this will open up and we'll see each other, on the road. Well, you'll be on the road. I'll be sitting in a seat.
Okay.
All right. Take care, Garnet. Thank you
Yeah,
so
take care.
much.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.